I never thought I'd be the guy to bring down the notorious Deborah Jenkins, but sometimes life has other plans. For those who don't know me, I'm Mike Wilson, a child protective services worker who moved into Sunnyside Estates just 6 months ago. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Well-maintained lawns, a community pool, and friendly neighbors. Well, most of them were friendly. The exception was Deborah Jenkins, known to everyone as Karen, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association. From the moment I moved in, Karen had made it her personal mission to document my every violation of the HOA rules. My grass was half an inch too tall. My mailbox wasn't the exact shade of chestnut brown specified in Section 4, Paragraph 12 of the bylaws. I once left my trash can visible from the street for an extra hour past collection time, which resulted in a strongly worded letter taped to my front door. But all of this was just a warm-up act for what would become the most dramatic showdown our quiet little community had ever witnessed. It was a sweltering Saturday in July when everything came to a head. The temperature had climbed to 98 by noon, and the humidity made it feel like we were all swimming through soup. I had just returned from the grocery store and was unloading bags when I noticed Karen marching across the street toward Mrs. Rodriguez's house. Her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest like a shield. Following behind her was her 8-year-old son, Tommy, dragging his feet and looking thoroughly miserable in the heat. "Tommy, stay in the car," Karen snapped over her shoulder. "I just need to have a quick word with Mrs. Rodriguez about her unauthorized garden gnomes. I won't be long." I watched as she clicked the lock button on her key fob, not once, but twice, ensuring the doors were secured. The windows were completely closed. I paused with a gallon of milk in my hand. Did she just lock her child in a car on one of the hottest days of the year? Surely, she wouldn't be that reckless. Maybe she left the engine running with the air conditioning on. But as I looked closer, I could see that the car was off. No rumbling engine, no condensation from the AC, just a small child sitting in what would quickly become a dangerous oven. Now, I should mention that in my line of work as a CPS worker, I've seen far too many cases of children left in hot cars. Some accidental, some negligent, all potentially deadly. The temperature inside a locked car can rise 20 in just 10 minutes. It doesn't take long for a situation to become life-threatening, especially for a child. I knew I had to act quickly. But professionally, I set down my groceries and walked over to Karen's car, peering in through the window. Tommy was already sweating, his face flushed. I tapped on the glass and smiled reassuringly at him. "Hey buddy, are you okay in there?" I asked loud enough for him to hear through the glass. He shook his head and tried to pull at the door handle, but the child lock was engaged. "My mum says I have to stay here," he replied, his voice muffled. "It's really hot." "I know, buddy. How about I go talk to your mum real quick?" I turned toward Mrs. Rodriguez's house, where I could see Karen gesturing wildly at a collection of garden gnomes arranged around a small fountain. Before I could reach them, Karen spotted me approaching and immediately squared her shoulders. "Mr. Wilson," she said with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes, "if this is about your unapproved bird feeder, I've already documented it and you'll be receiving a formal notice by Monday." I kept my voice calm and professional. "Actually, Mrs. Jenkins, I'm concerned about your son. You've left him locked in the car with no air conditioning, and it's nearly 1:00 today." Karen's eyes narrowed, and she clutched her clipboard tighter. "I'm taking care of HOA business, and I'll only be a few minutes. Tommy is perfectly fine. I left him with his tablet." She turned back to Mrs. Rodriguez. "As I was saying about these unauthorized decorative items, Mrs. Jenkins," I interrupted, maintaining my professional tone despite my growing concern, "the interior of a car can reach 120 in less than 20 minutes on a day like today. Your son is already showing signs of distress." Karen whipped around. Her face flushed with anger rather than heat. "Are you trying to tell me how to parent my child? Who do you think you are?" I took a deep breath. "I'm a child protective services worker and I'm legally obligated to intervene if I see a child in a potentially dangerous situation. Please unlock your car immediately." Something changed in Karen's expression and a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face before being replaced by indignation. "This is ridiculous. I know what's best for my son. This will only take a few more minutes, and he's fine waiting in the car. Mind your own business and stop trying to undermine my authority." It was the phrase "my authority" that confirmed what I'd suspected all along. Karen's HOA presidency had blurred the lines between community guidelines and personal power. She truly believed she was above reproach, even when it came to her child's safety. "Mrs. Jenkins, if you don't unlock your car right now, I'll have no choice but to call 911, I said firmly. "This isn't about HOA rules or your authority. This is about your son's safety." Karen's eyes widened with disbelief. "You wouldn't dare. Do you know how many violations I could find at your house if I really looked? That garden of yours is at least 2 inches over the height restriction. And don't think I haven't noticed the non-regulation wind chimes on your back porch." I pulled out my phone. "Mrs. Jenkins, I don't care about wind chimes or garden heights right now. Your son is locked in a hot car, and that's my only concern." I dialed 911 and held the phone to my ear, maintaining eye contact with her the entire time. When the dispatcher answered, I explained the situation calmly. "Yes, I'm reporting a child locked in a hot car." "No, the mother is refusing to unlock it." "Yes, I've informed her of the danger. The address is 42 Sunnyside Lane." Karen's face transformed from indignation to panic as she realized this was escalating beyond her control. "This is absurd," she exclaimed, finally pulling out her keys. "I'm unlocking it right now. There's no need for this dramatics." She furiously jabbed at the unlock button on her key fob. I thanked the dispatcher and ended the call, but informed Karen that officers would still be responding as per protocol. By this time, several neighbors had emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Rodriguez stood wide-eyed on her porch, her garden gnomes temporarily forgotten. Mr. Peterson from across the street was walking over, concern etched on his face. I immediately went to the car and opened the door. Tommy practically tumbled out, his face bright red and his hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. "It was really hot in there," he said, gulping in the fresh air. Even though it was still sweltering outside, it was significantly cooler than inside the car. "I know, buddy. Let's get you some water," I said, leading him toward my house where my groceries still sat on the driveway. Karen trailed behind us, alternating between defending her actions and threatening me with HOA violations. "This is completely unnecessary," she insisted, her voice rising. "Tommy was perfectly fine. You're overreacting and turning the neighbors against me. Just wait until the next board meeting when I bring up all your violations." I ignored her threats and focused on getting Tommy cooled down. I handed him a bottle of water from my grocery bag and suggested he sit in the shade of my porch. The sound of sirens in the distance indicated that the police were on their way. When the officers arrived, they took statements from everyone present. One officer used a thermometer to measure the temperature inside Karen's car, which had reached a dangerous 132 in the short time since Tommy had been removed. The other officer spoke with Tommy, who admitted this wasn't the first time he'd been left in the car while his mum took care of HOA stuff. What happened next was something I never expected to witness in our quiet little community. After conferring with their sergeant over the radio, the officers approached Karen with solemn expressions. "Mrs. Jenkins," one officer said firmly, "based on the evidence and witness statements, we're placing you under arrest for child endangerment." Karen's mouth fell open in shock. "Arrest? This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? I'm the president of the Homeowners Association." The officer remained unmoved. "Ma'am, please turn around and place your hands behind your back." As the officers handcuffed Karen, she looked around frantically at the gathering crowd of neighbors, the very people she'd been terrorizing with her clipboard and rulebook for years. "This is all a misunderstanding. Tell them I'm a good mother. Tell them how I keep our neighborhood pristine." But nobody spoke up in her defense. In fact, several neighbors were nodding in approval as Karen was led to the police car. Tommy was taken into temporary protective custody by another CPS worker who had been called to the scene, a colleague of mine named Sarah, who happened to be on call that weekend. 3 days later, an emergency meeting of the HOA board was called. Karen's arrest had made the local